Hey guys, I just wanted to take a quick moment to talk about the passing of Roger Ebert, which really it broke my heart. I wasn't surprised when he died, but it was hard for me to take because he really is one of my inspirations and one of my heroes. He's the reason I do what I do, and I think a reason why a lot of you do what you do. When I was younger, I was absolutely obsessed with Siskel and Ebert. I loved watching their show. I've always been fascinated by movies, obviously, but they were the ones that really made film criticism accessible and mainstream. And after their show became really, really popular, everybody wanted to be a movie critic, including myself. And he gave so many of us a chance to do that. And I think a lot of people, great film critics now have Roger Ebert to thank and Siskel. When Gene Siskel died, of course, it was a very premature death and just a really, really sad one. But Roger Ebert kept going. Why? Because the two of them had such strong, even though they had such strong chemistry, they both were so smart and they could stand on their own easily. They didn't depend on each other. So Roger Ebert kept going with Richard Roeper. And even beyond that, even when Ebert had cancer and had to stop and he couldn't speak anymore, the show kept going and people still appreciated it for a while longer. And, there's so much to be said for that. It's so much to be said for what he's done for us. He honestly he's changed the way we look at movies. I mean, movie critics weren't really that accepted, I guess, in the mainstream or to the public, with the exception of maybe Pauline Kael before Roger Ebert. And when I think about 17 years old, I've always been in love with movies, obsessed with them all the time, uh, to the point of no social life when I was younger. But when I was about 17, I really started taking movies seriously and I really wanted to become well versed, I guess, in movies. I started looking at all the classics and really studying them. And of course, I went to Roger Ebert first because he's just the go to guy. He's like the Tom Hanks of reviewing. That's what my dad said. And I thought that was the perfect way to describe him. I went to him immediately and started looking at Siskel and Ebert and just devouring. It was like I was devouring their shows, their episodes, and almost like it was potato chips. I just could not stop watching. Anytime I saw a movie, I had to know what Roger Ebert said about it, so I would go and see. And then at that point I started looking into his reviews, his written reviews, because he really is a great writer. He's very plain spoken. He's got a very simplistic style, but there's a lot of wit. He's definitely has a very sharp mind, which is why he's so beloved. And there's something to be said for that. He's not too, artsy and esoteric. He's just that kind of middle of the road, but it's got a very classic quality to it, which is why so many people love his writing. And I started reading all of his books. I have like 4 or 5 of his books on my bookshelf. And I just became obsessed with writing. That's what really made me decide that I wanted to write and why I became an English major in college. Um, Reading his work made me think, okay, this seems like a simple thing to say, but I love movies and I love, let's say I'm watching a certain movie. I love this movie, but he got me to focus on why. Why do I like this movie? Explain why you like it in a way that is, I guess, well done, well structured. And that seems very simple, like why? Oh, that's not that difficult. It really is. It's hard to express your thoughts in a way that's really going to get you to think. So when I started looking at the way he writes, I started thinking like, or tried to think like he did. I tried to think about movies in a way that was very intellectual. And when I was, like 18, 19 years old, I was trying so hard to write like Roger Ebert. I was trying to copy his style all the time. And really, I have school to thank for why I've become a better writer, but he had a lot to do with it as well. In a way, he was almost like one of my teachers. And when I found out that his cancer returned the day before he passed, I knew that he didn't have much time left. I just didn't know it was going to be so sudden. I didn't know his death was going to be so sudden. And it's hard for me to accept because he really was one of my inspirations, one of my heroes. And now, I mean, this is a very scattered tribute, but oh well, it's very off the cuff. Sorry about that. But when I was, in the last couple years, I kind of moved on from Roger Ebert. I started getting into more people like David Denby. I think he's the greatest critic. He's my favorite for the New York Times, and also A.O. Scott and Michael Phillips. And I started to move away from Roger Ebert. But, who would they be if it wasn't for Roger Ebert? And even though I didn't maybe like him as much as I used to, I always went and saw what he thought about movies. Even if I disagreed with him, I would always check on his website and see what his reviews were and what he said about movies. And now it's just so weird. It's like this. It's like a void. It's like this weird emptiness. It's like, who am I going to look to now? That who's going to be my go-to guy, for reviews. It's just very strange not having him there because he was, again, such an inspiration to all of us. Inspiration to not just me, but to people like you. You guys are on YouTube or you've got blogs and you're writing about movies or TV, whatever it is. And you probably were inspired by Roger as well. And so I think he's affected so many of us, so many young minds in ways that I don't think he ever realized when he was alive. But I hope that wherever he is, he's arguing with Gene Siskel over some very pointless movie or something. But he really will be missed. I know I'm going to miss him. I know a lot of you will miss him. And it's just sad. It was a sad week for movies, I think. So, yeah, that's basically what I have to say about Roger Ebert. Again, I apologize for the lack of structure in this little tribute, but I literally just thought I would come on here and just kind of talk about it. I didn't prepare or anything like that. So, thank you guys so much for listening, and please share some of your thoughts on Ebert or how he's inspired you. You can follow me on Twitter. The link is below, as always, and thank you for listening. Check you or see you next time.